So what we're going to do before we start degreasing this is remove the alternator. So I'm going to power hose it afterwards, and I don't want water getting into it. Just going to protect the exhaust with a tree cleaner, make sure no water enters the engine. And electrics I'm not that bothered about, there isn't really much on here, so just going to crack on with everything else in place and see how we do. Right, out of here. If I pull out the stopper and it breaks off. This is just alternator's back on, water pump's connected up. Battery's back in, and try starting it. Hopefully there's no water in the cylinders. It's going to make for a hilarious video for everybody except me if this thing hydrolocks. So, fingers crossed. Open. We got a pretty graphic demonstration of where we've got a leak here from the injector when the copper washers is filled. Do you want to come in closer? See the water just bubbling up around that center injector. So I thought it was just a blow on the exhaust manifold. That's where that sound's been coming from. As well as that, you can probably hear the water pump rumbling at the front. We'll be replacing that as well. For now, I'm going to get it in the workshop. Sitting around the center injector, and I can clearly see the water being blown back from there. There's a bad leak around that injector. So I discovered that a few days ago. I've got the replacement copper washers, so I'm going to have to pull that injector out, drop a washer in. Problem with it, it's obviously it's annoying when you get the noise. Probably using it as tractor starts. The real issue is the washer I had seen a recent smaller volume. Oh, that's it. Oh, baby. Okay. So look at the contents that came out of the red. I'm impressed. Some of these actually bothered to put antifreeze in. This is probably me, I'd forgotten to put it in there. Well, back on. Hopefully everything else comes undone just as easily. Oh, come out. Come out. Alright. On the radiator. Okay. So, yeah, this fan, or this water pump is definitely dead. So what I'm going to do now is straighten out these tabs. I'm going to bolt the fan, hold the water pumps on the engine if I can, and just make it easier. I can grip it with that. Speed it up after. So that short little pipe with the rubber hose in there is seems to be preventing the water pump from moving. So I'm going to remove the thermostat housing. I'll have a look in there anyway. I would be extremely surprised if there isn't a thermostat in this tractor. We'll find out. Generally speaking, these things get removed quite early in the machine's life, and there's never a replacement fitted. So, there's actually a thermostat in there. So what we'll do is, before we fit everything back up, I'm actually going to remove and test that thermostat. Now, so after a long battle, finally got our water pump free, and you can see just how bad it was. It is absolutely and utterly rusted in there. The bearings are pretty well shot. Pillars move you about the place and see where it's scored this back plate. Just a small tap in the injector, both directions, starting to get movement in it. It's literally probably about a mil of clearance between injector and thread. I have to be very careful not to damage those studs. But as you can see, I'm applying very little pressure, but this will start to loosen and break the bond. Now this injector is actually incredibly loose, so it's not really going to put up a fight. And before I go any further, I'm going to get my air gun in there, give it a quick shot of compressed air, and start trying to lever it out then. Okay, so what I've done is got this insulated screwdriver, wrapped the end of it in electrical tape so that it would just fit down inside the hole in the head for the injector nozzle. And then I've carefully removed the carbon from the seat that the copper washer is going to sit against. I've blown it out with compressed air, so my screwdriver has prevented, hopefully, any of the carbon from entering the cylinder. So I've got the injector on the bench now. I'm just going to clean the surface. The copper washer is stuck to it, so I just need to free that off, clean the injector a bit, just the body of it. I'm going to stay away from the nozzle and put on a new copper washer, drop it back in there, torque it down. Before I go bleeding the fuel system, I'm going to replace the fuel filter, and I'm also going to see if I can stop that leak on the lift pump. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so here is our cleaned injector. Haven't gone over the top of this now because really injectors are a specialist thing, so I don't risk any damage. Here are our copper washers. So that's the one that's just been removed. See, there was a lot of carbon build-up on one side of it. It was quite well attached to the injector, and here's the fresh replacement. So you can see it's quite a difference in the thickness because the other one had been compressed, and these came from AgriLine products. So there's the code if you need to get a set for your Dexta. So basically what I'm going to do is use the screwdriver as a guide, drop it down inside the hole, pop my injector in, then I'm going to take a look at the manual, see if I can get a torque setting, torque it down, and connect up the fuel pipes. And before I go to bleed it, I'm going to crack on with the cooling system, just get that buttoned up before we start this engine back up. So get going. So there's my copper washer located. Just going to very carefully drop my injector in place. That's in the right position relative to the other injectors. So I'm gonna reattach the nuts, and gonna check the workshop manual, which I've got a copy of here, to see if there's a torque setting available for that. So move this stuff out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. And because the other injectors aren't showing any signs of leaking, I am going to take the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. Just leave them well enough alone. The engine was running quite well despite having one leaking, so I don't see the reason in going at it right now. I just make sure that they're torqued to the right settings and take from there. So I've got my fuel system bolted back up, return line fitted. Or left this loose for the moment because I need to bleed the system, so it might be a benefit just to let some fuel come out of there, see what happens when we get to it. No, it makes absolutely no sense bleeding the system at the moment because I've got a fuel leak here on this main feed, and also I need to replace my main fuel filter, so I might as well go ahead and do that now. Okay, so not sure if my fuel supply is now on and off because that tap just keeps rotating. So got my replacement fuel filter sitting here. It's going to start to undo this filter and see what happens. Okay, so we should have fuel filter and some O-rings in here. I'm just going to grab some clean rags, have those ready, and some clean paper to sit this fuel filter on. Okay, so I've now got a steady flow of fuel out of the bleed on top of the pump. So I noticed as well that this is covered in instant gasket. So I have cleaned that off and taken an O-ring from the selection I have here and fitted one. These things are well worth getting. Picked these up in, I think, Lidl or Aldi. Actually, it was Aldi for about €5 for a set or something like that. It was cheap. Now I also got fuel coming out here out of bleeding the pump, so just going to leave that just slightly loose and see if we can get any more air bubbles out of that. Steady flow of fuel. Yeah, it's a nice dribble going on the workshop floor, so just tighten that up. And I've also got this injector pipe slightly loose here, so what I'll do when we're ready to fire her is I'm just going to crack 1 or 2 injectors and crank it. But I'm just going to close it up for the moment. We'll get on with the cooling system. Okay, we've got our new radiator hoses fitted up. New Jubilee clips, ready to go. The old hoses are down here, and these have gone absolutely rock solid. These are shot. So whereas these ones, nice and pliable. So I'm gonna get this radiator installed, get some coolant in here and bleed out the fuel system, see if we can get it to run. Okay. Alright, cooling system's bolted back together, but whoever made this radiator hose didn't do a very good job. I spent the last 30 minutes playing around with it. It's made about 1 inch too short, so it's incredibly close to that fan belt. So I'm just going to have to mess around with it a bit more, and I'm going to get some coolant in it then and fire it up. Plan for today basically is to service the engine, gearbox and rear axle, the hydraulics. So I've got the sun plug removed, just draining the oil here at the moment. Pulled the sun plug. Slightly concerningly, we appear to have some metal filings in here. Not sure how long they've been in there, but there's in here underneath the sump there is a gauze filter under there, so I'm just going to pull that out as well and see what it looks like. I went to the local garage, picked up some kerosene, and I'm going to use that to flush the filter out. Going to do the same with the gearbox. It's full of gunge, so I'm going to flush it with kerosene and I'm going to pull the top off the back axle, see how that looks. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so I've got this little strainer plate bolted. Just try and get it to break away from the bottom of the engine. And let's see what's inside now. Not looking forward to this one. Okay, so I pulled the plate in the bottom of the sump. Surprise, surprise. There is no gauze in it. That's the main oil filter. I'm going to have a look at that, see if there's anything in it. Strangely, it was crushed, mustn't have been put in properly, and the housing is fairly dirty. This is the pre-cleaner for the air system, so what I'm going to do now is wash everything in a bath of kerosene and clean it up. Just show you some of the gunge. I think it's about probably in excess of 20 years since this engine had an oil change. Give you an idea of what's inside in it. So, but the good news is there doesn't appear to be any more metal in here. It's just congealed oil. Okay, so I'm going to get this lot cleaned up and just start putting it back together. This is the bottom of the pre-cleaner. Let's try and get it under the light. That is nasty, nasty. Just obviously the fact that it was running without a pre-cleaner on it for so long, it's just been filling up with water. So gonna fill this with kerosene, clean it out. Gonna clean this gauze through with some kerosene, then blow it out with compressed air, and I'm just gonna give this one last clean. Now I've cleaned the oil filter housing pretty thoroughly. that was just full of gunk at the bottom. So what I did was just filled it with some kerosene, used a small paintbrush, agitated it, and it's now really pretty much ready to go. So just put a small bit more kerosene in here, blow it out with compressed air, fit the new filter. Gonna clean the housing on the other side and offer it up, bolt it up. Now, I'll give that a clean, and while I'm doing that, I'm gonna give the plate down here one last clean and get everything back together. Okay, so this is the view up inside some of the Dexta. Cleaned up the mating surface of this, taken off as much as I can of the oil gasket. So just gonna give it one last clean. I've cleaned the that gauze at the bottom there as best I can, and I've run a finger with a glove right inside something, pulled out as much the old oil as I can. But I think what I'm going to do with this one, given the amount of gunge that's in there, is just run it for a few hours and then drop the oil and change it again, just to be safe. So I'm going to grab my new gasket, get everything bolted up and refill her with oil. So here's our freshly cleaned oil butter filter assembly. So you can see there is an oil level indicated, so let's fill that with fresh oil, and here's the filter element that sits in there. So basically what I've done is washed it thoroughly with kerosene, blown it out with compressed air to dry it off. So it's going to fill this thing with oil and stick it back in there on the side of the engine. Need to dig out some more engine oil then in a minute. Just finished topping off this engine, and I'm going to turn it over with the stopper out, get the oil pressure up and circulating, and then let her start, see what happens. The filter, because it's installed vertically, I've already filled it with oil, and hopefully that should take the pressure off of the pump, should pick up oil pressure pretty quick, and we can start it safely. So let's get going. So we've filled up to the correct level, and it's going to drop this assembly in here like this, and offer it up to the bottom of our engine without spilling the entire contents. Okay, so I'm going to put down the camera to do this, but it's just a case of tightening that clamp, and this is done. Some good news at last. I've opened up our Dexta's oil filter. I was a bit worried when I saw the metal filings in the magnetic sun plug. Now, I suspect they may have been there since the engine was last rebuilt. May not have been cleaned out, but I've been through the filter in detail, and the good news is there is no metal in here. There's no sign of any serious dirt in here either. Yeah, the oil's a bit gunky on it, but generally speaking it looks very good, so that's some good news. Okay, it's full of oil. Got our oil pressure up, dipped it again, refilled it. Just a charged light, oil pressure is okay. No leaks. All good. Okay, so I got this back end opened up. What can I say? It appears to have been about as well maintained as the rest of this tractor, possibly worse. Looks like sand, not sure what that is. The oil is pretty nasty. So, just going to bring you around, show you the top end. So everything appears to be there, still connected. To be honest, I really think that there's it's an oil issue in this back end. I mean, that oil is just terrible. Chances are the pickup filter is completely blocked. So what I'm going to do is drain this crap out and wash the whole thing thoroughly with kerosene. Just change any of the O-rings that are visible, clean up the linkages, and try reassembling and refilling with fresh oil. So get started. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and also to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also appreciate it if you leave a comment below. This is the last of the old footage Dexta. I know the quality isn't great, but the reason for showing it is we're now up to speed. We're up to the latest footage, which will be in the next video, and I wanted you to see the work that had gone on before. We were using different cameras back then and different mics. Didn't work out the best. It's another thing actually, if you would take the time to leave a comment below, let me know what you're using in terms of camera equipment, what you do for lighting and sound. I'd really appreciate it. It's still very new to this thing, and I want to invest some more money in cameras shortly and just try and improve the overall quality. So that's it. I'm finished up for today. Time to go home. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.